Welcome to No Nonsense Psychiatry, the podcast that cuts through the noise and the confusion surrounding mental health. My name is Mark and I'm your host, and my goal is to give you the clear, practical information you need to understand your own well-being. No jargon, no fluff, just honest, helpful tools to help you on your journey. Let's dive in.
No nonsense.
Imagine a world where common sense told you that the Earth was stationary centre of the universe and that the planets required clumsy, complicated math just to justify that belief. And that was the reality until Nicholas Copernicus demonstrated true intellectual humility, the core of having an open mind. By daring to look at the data differently, leading to a radical heliocentric model. And on the flip side, consider doctors who scornfully reject Ignaz Swami's demand for hand washing, leading to tragic deaths. Their closed mind was protected by ego and tradition, prioritising that status over undeniable statistical evidence. Today we're exploring why an open mind isn't just an intellectual virtue. It's a powerful tool for mental health. Being receptive to new ideas, arguments and evidence, even if they contradict your deeply held beliefs, reduces the rigidity and certainty that fuels anxiety and frustration. So in this episode, Having an Open Mind, we'll give you 3 practical strategies, including how to still man an opposing argument and adopt the curious listener stance, to build your cognitive flexibility, lessen judgmental thoughts and increase your resilience against the inevitable complexities of life. It's time to open that door and to start thinking. Stay with us. A great example of having an open mind, which led to a radical shift in the human understanding, is the story of Nicholas Copernicus and the heliocentric model. Copernicus and the shift to heliocentrism. For over 1,400 years, Western civilization operated under the geocentric model, championed by the ancient astronomer Ptolemy and supported by the Catholic Church. This system placed the Earth, geo, stationary at the centre of the universe, with the Sun, the planets and the stars revolving around it. And this model was considered infallible, common sense. The prevailing belief, closed mindset, is the idea that the massive Earth was deemed absurd and religiously heretical. Any astronomer observation that didn't fit required adding complex and clumsy mechanisms or epicycles to the geocentric model to fix it. People were invested in this complex, flawed explanation because it was established wisdom. Nicholas, in 1473, a Polish astronomer, showed remarkable intellectual humility and openness. He was trained in the geocentric model, but observed that the calculations to predict planetary motion were becoming incredibly complicated and unable to work out. He did not reject the old system out of hand, but he was open to fundamentally different perspectives to simplify the math. Nicholas dared to reread ancient texts and consider the idea previously dismissed, the heliocentric model. He hypothesized that placing the Sun, Helios, at the center of the universe, with the Earth revolving around it, made the entire planetary system elegantly simple and mathematically consistent. The impact of that openness, Nicholas demonstrated an open mind by prioritising mathematical simplicity and elegance over centuries of received wisdom and common sense perception. His willingness to consider the paradigm shift, even knowing the religious and the philosophical controversy it would cause, laid the foundation for modern astronomers and physics and sparked a scientific revolution. Having an open mind means receptive to new ideas, arguments and information, even if they contradict your existing belief, your values or opinions. It's a state of intellectual humility and curiosity. A clear example to the closed mind leading to dramatic consequences in the institution rejection of the germ theory of disease. And this was the mid-19th century, particularly concerning hand-washing in medicine. Ignaz Semmelweis is a powerful example. It involves this Hungarian physician, and he worked in maternity wards in Vienna in the General Hospital. He noticed a horrifyingly difference in the mortality. The rate of fever or childbed fever was constantly much higher in the clinic where doctors and medical students worked, usually after they perform in autopsies and then were in the adjacent clinic run by the midwives. The observation he made, he hypothesised that the doctors were transferring from the autopsy room to the delivery room on their unwashed hands. The solution he introduced a mandatory policy for the doctors: wash their hands with chlorinated lime solution, a disinfectant, before entering the maternity ward. The mortality rate immediately plummeted from 10 to 35% to less than 1%. Despite this undeniable dramatic statistical evidence, the medical establishment largely exhibited a closed mind and outright rejected Ignace's findings. And the prevailing medical belief was that the disease was caused by imbalances of the body's humus or foul air, the miasma theory. Ignaz's idea that an invisible agent was responsible contradicted the establishment, authoritative medical textbooks and professors. And the suggestion that physicians learned high-stated professionals were personally responsible for killing their patients was considered profound and an insult to their ego and status. It was easier and more palatable to believe in the abstract course like bad air than the accept of personal failure. Agnes couldn't explain what the particles were or how they worked. The germ theory wasn't established until later by Pasteur and Koch, because he couldn't explain the mechanism, and they rejected the observable result. Ignaz was eventually ridiculed by and driven out of Vienna, and tragically died in an asylum. Decades later, when the germ theory provided the mechanism, his findings were finally accepted and validating the power of the open mind observation over the entrenched tradition. An open mind is characterized by active, intentional ways of thinking. You acknowledge that you don't possess all the answers and that your current understanding might be completely wrong or just incomplete. And this allows you to listen without feeling personally threatened. You prioritize truth and accuracy over the comfort of confirmation. If presented with strong evidence that contradicts your view, you are willing to evaluate it fairly and potentially change your mind. You can handle situations where there isn't clear and simple, where it isn't a clear, simple answer. You don't rush to judgment or shut down a complex topic just because it makes you feel uncomfortable. You make a genuine effort to try and understand why someone holds a different view, even if their view seems illogical to you. You should try to see the world through their lived experience. It's important to distinguish an open mind from simply being agreeable. Having an open mind doesn't mean you have to automatically accept every new idea you hear. It means that you give fair consideration and critically evaluate it before accepting or rejecting it. It's not a lacking of conviction. You can still hold on to your convictions, but don't hold them lightly enough to be updated. But you need to hold them lightly enough to be updated if the data changes. So ultimately, an open mind is crucial for continuous learning, reduces prejudice, and fosters productive dialogue. Developing an open mind is a crucial strategy for improving mental health because it reduces rigidity, it lessens judgmental thoughts, and increases your ability to cope with complex uncertainty. So here are 3 strategies to develop an open mind along with their mental health benefits. Practice still manning arguments, cognitive flexibility, and this strategy involves engaging with ideas you disagree with, not to tear them down, but to generally understand them. So when you encounter an opposing view, politics, work, personal debate, wherever it might be, don't immediately look for the flaws. Instead, practice still manning the other person's argument. Articulate their position in the strongest, clearest, most radical form, even better than they might have articulated it themselves. This development is cognitive flexibility, by forcing your brain to step out of its rigid boundaries and truly understand a different logic. You reduce the immediate stressful threat response that is often accompanied by disagreement. If it helps you recognise the opposing views aren't necessarily malicious or foolish, just different, lowering your daily level of frustration and anger. Adopt a curious listener stance and reduce certainty. Challenge your need to be right and embrace the idea that learning is continuous. In conversations focused on asking open-ended questions, non-judgmental questions, how, why, what if, instead of planning your rebuttal straight off. Assume that every person you meet knows something you don't. Specifically try to identify the fundamental assumptions that underpin their belief system. Don't ask, why are you wrong? Ask, what is the foundational principles that make this true for you? The mental health benefit of this is that excessive certainty is a huge source of anxiety, because when reality inevitably contradicts your fixed view, the world feels chaotic. So by approaching life as a curious listener, in that stance you reduce the psychological pressure of needing to have all the answers. So this fosters intellectual humility, which is highly protective against stress caused by unexpected events. Finally, seek out diverse information sources. Challenge confirmation bias. Intentionally expose yourself to information that challenges your comfort zone. So this is the strategy. Identify the news, the podcast, or the social media accounts, or the media outlets that you most frequently agree with. Then deliberately seek out the well-reasoned, credible sources from the opposite end of the spectrum. Read or listen to that opposing view entirely. The goal is not conversion, but to understand the range of facts and interpretations available. The mental health benefit of this is that it directly combats that confirmation bias, that tendency to only seek out information that validates what you believe. Confirmation bias makes you feel right, but it makes you fragile. By regularly challenging your biases, you build a tolerance for ambiguity, and it becomes less emotionally dependent on the current worldview, increasing that resilience that you have when your assumptions are inevitably tested. Wow. So that's our explanation of the critical mental health tool, having an open mind. We saw how intellectual humility allows Copernicus to challenge 1,400 years of consensus, and how a closed mind led to medical establishment to tragically reject Ignace's life-saving discovery. Remember, an open mind isn't about passively agreeing with everything. It's about reducing the rigidity that causes unnecessary stress. By consciously practicing the strategies we discussed, still manning, an opposing argument, adopting the curious listener stance, and seeking out diverse information, you're building cognitive flexibility. And this protects you from an emotional threat response that comes with disagreement, lowering your baseline for frustration and ultimately increasing your resilience. It's not bad, eh? Thank you for tuning in to No Nonsense Psychiatry. Join us next time. Until then, stay curious and keep those convictions lightly held. Before we go, if you found the podcast helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. You can also support the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It only takes a moment, but it makes a big difference in helping us reach more people. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode of No